Middleton marrying hedge fund manager James Matthews on Saturday at St. Mark's Church in Inglefield, England, filled with pink and white flowers.
Not many people who share a close relationship with major public figures manage to build a distinct reputation for themselves. But Pippa Middleton is one of the rare exceptions. As the younger sister of Catherine, Princess of Wales, Pippa has lived a life very much under the gaze of the media, yet she has managed to create a space for herself beyond simply being known as Kate's sister. When Kate Middleton married Prince William in 2011, the world's attention was naturally fixed on the future queen and her royal ceremony. However, it was during that very wedding that Pippa stepped firmly into the public eye. As the maid of honor, her role was to support her sister, but it was her stunning appearance, particularly her elegant ivory dress, that captured the media's fascination. Designed by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen, the dress was simple but form-fitting, creating an unforgettable image that sparked a wave of global headlines. Almost overnight, Pippa became a celebrity in her own right. Major publications, blogs, and even TV shows started analyzing everything about her, from her style choices to her personality. Some referred to her as the unexpected star of the royal wedding, a label that followed her for years afterward. It's important to note that the sudden attention wasn't something she had actively sought. Prior to the wedding, Pippa had been living relatively privately, working in event planning, and occasionally writing about social events, far from the paparazzi flashbulbs that she would soon have to face daily. The public reaction to Pippa was complex. Many admired her poise and fashion sense, while others critiqued the level of fame she achieved through association. Nonetheless, it was clear that she had a natural charisma that the media latched onto. Fashion retailers reported surges in demand for dresses similar to hers, and she was soon being referred to as a trendsetter. Her name carried enough weight that within a year of the wedding, she published her own party planning book titled Celebrate, although its reception was mixed, with some critics suggesting it was too simplistic for its target audience. The spotlight also came with downsides. Pippa quickly learned that fame could be a double-edged sword. Suddenly, photographers followed her everywhere. Ordinary moments like going to the gym, shopping, or having dinner with friends became headline material. Privacy, something she had largely enjoyed before, was now almost impossible to maintain. For someone who had grown up outside of aristocratic circles, the Middletons were a successful but non-royal family. The adjustment to such an invasive level of attention must have been overwhelming. The Middleton upbringing emphasized hard work and self-reliance. Their parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, built their party supply business from scratch and ensured their children were well-educated and grounded. Both Kate and Pippa attended Marlborough College, an exclusive boarding school, and later went on to university. Kate to St. Andrews, where she met Prince William, and Pippa to the University of Edinburgh, where she studied English literature. By all accounts, Pippa excelled academically and socially, building a strong network of friends during her university years. After graduating, Pippa continued to build a professional career away from the spotlight. She worked at a public relations firm, promoting luxury products, and later moved into event management with a company called Table Talk. Before the royal wedding, it would have been fair to say she was carving out a successful life on her own merits. However, once the media storm hit in 2011, it became clear that maintaining a normal career would no longer be simple. The transformation in her public image was rapid. Within months, Pippa was appearing on international best-dressed lists, being featured in lifestyle magazines, and even fielding offers for television work, though she reportedly turned down many of them. American media in particular showed a strong fascination with her, and there were rumors at the time about Pippa moving to New York to capitalize on her fame. However, she largely remained based in the UK, carefully managing her public image while continuing to pursue work in writing and charity. Despite the surge of attention, Pippa appeared determined to create an identity beyond being a royal sibling. Her book, Celebrate, was an example of trying to channel public interest into a personal project, although, as mentioned, it received a mixed response from critics and the public. Some praised her enthusiasm and practical advice, while others mocked the content for stating the obvious, such as suggesting that sandwiches be served at a picnic. Nonetheless, it was a significant step for Pippa to attempt to transition from media figure to author. One thing that often gets overlooked in discussions about Pippa's fame is the genuine pressure she must have faced living in the shadow of her sister's enormous public role. Kate wasn't just marrying into any family. She was joining the British monarchy, one of the most scrutinized institutions in the world. Comparisons between the two sisters were inevitable, even if they were entirely different in personality and ambitions. Some observers noted that while Kate adapted seamlessly to royal life, taking on her duties with a calm and measured approach, Pippa had to navigate a much less defined path, balancing public curiosity with personal independence. Of course, fame brought financial opportunities too. Reports suggested that Pippa secured lucrative deals, both for appearances and endorsements, though she kept her activities relatively low-key compared to other celebrities. She reportedly worked as a columnist for several publications, including Vanity Fair and The Spectator, offering insights into everything from social etiquette to athletic pursuits. Through all this, she seemed keen to project an image of normalcy and dedication to her work, rather than simply living off her newfound fame. Despite her efforts to stay grounded, the tabloid interest in her personal life remained intense. Relationships, friendships, and even casual acquaintances were often the subject of intense speculation. Pippa's romantic life, in particular, became a favorite topic for the press, setting the stage for future challenges as she sought a private and meaningful relationship in a very public world. One of Pippa's first publicly known relationships post-royal wedding was with Alex Loudon, a former professional cricketer who had transitioned into a career in finance. The relationship seemed promising at first, offering Pippa a connection to someone outside the direct sphere of celebrity and royalty. Alex was well-educated, having attended Eton College and Durham University, and came from a background that matched the Middletons' comfortable but non-aristocratic status. However, despite initial appearances, the relationship faced challenges. Reports at the time suggested that the intense media scrutiny placed a strain on them. Moreover, Alex, who was known for his low-profile lifestyle, reportedly struggled with the attention that came with dating someone so closely linked to the royal family. After a relatively quiet period, Pippa and Alex broke up in 2011. The split was covered heavily by the press, with many speculating about whether fame had driven a wedge between them. Some sources close to the couple suggested that although they cared for each other, they were simply moving in different directions. Alex, who valued his privacy, found it difficult to adjust to the constant public interest in Pippa's life. Not long after her split from Alex, Pippa crossed paths with James Matthews, a man whose life story is quite different yet complementary to hers. James, like Alex, had attended Eton and went on to become a successful financier. Before entering the world of finance, James had been a professional racing driver, competing in events such as the British Formula 3 Championship. His background was an interesting mix of elite education, competitive sports, and high-stakes finance, making him an appealing match for Pippa both socially and professionally. The two first met on the Caribbean island of St. Bart's, a location closely tied to the Matthews family, who owned the luxury Eden Rock Hotel on the island. It's believed that their first meeting left a strong impression on both sides, but at the time, circumstances were not ideal for a relationship to blossom. Pippa was still involved with Alex, and although sparks may have flown, she chose to remain committed to her then-boyfriend. Nevertheless, she and James remained friendly and kept in touch. Following her final breakup with Alex, Pippa began dating Nico Jackson, a stockbroker who, like her, led a relatively public life thanks to his career and connections. The relationship between Pippa and Nico seemed serious, and there was even speculation in the media that the two were headed towards marriage. They were seen together at numerous social events, holidays, and gatherings, and many described them as a well-matched couple. However, the long-distance nature of their relationship created challenges. Nico was based in Geneva for work, while Pippa remained in London. Despite efforts to make the relationship work, the physical separation took its toll, and by 2015, the couple amicably ended their relationship. During this period, James Matthews quietly re-entered Pippa's life. This time, their timing was better, and their relationship soon grew more serious. In 2016, they made their relationship public, and it wasn't long before news of their engagement surfaced. James proposed during a trip to the Lake District, reportedly with a stunning diamond ring that was custom-made for the occasion. The engagement was met with excitement by the British press and royal watchers alike. Many were eager to see Pippa settle down after years of intense public scrutiny over her love life. Pippa and James married in May 2017 at St. Mark's Church in Englefield, Berkshire, in a ceremony that blended tradition with modern elegance. It was a highly anticipated event, and naturally it drew considerable media attention. Notably, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, Pippa's niece and nephew, served as page boy and flower girl respectively, adding an even stronger royal connection to the affair. The wedding guest list included high-profile figures from British society, and it was widely covered in the press, though the couple made efforts to keep many details private. James Matthews's background provided an interesting dynamic to their marriage. Although not a member of the aristocracy in the traditional sense, James comes from a wealthy and influential family. His parents, David and Jane Matthews, own several luxury properties and are linked to the lairdship of Glenafric in Scotland. Should the Matthews family's plans proceed as expected, James will eventually inherit this title, making him the Laird of Glenafric. While it's not a royal title, it carries a certain degree of prestige in British society, and it further cemented Pippa's connection to the upper echelons of the UK's social scene. Despite their union being well received, it soon became apparent that James and Pippa had different approaches to public life. James, having spent much of his career in relatively private industries, seemed to prefer a low-key lifestyle. He rarely appeared in public and gave few interviews. In contrast, Pippa, who by now had spent several years navigating media attention, seemed more comfortable with occasional public appearances and continued to write and attend events. This difference in their public personas was subtle at first, but grew more noticeable over time. While Pippa continued to attend charity functions, society events, and occasional fashion shows, James often remained out of sight. Some observers noted that the couple's appearances together were infrequent, leading to speculation about the dynamics within their marriage. However, friends of the couple insisted that they were simply different in how they chose to engage with public life, and that their relationship was stable and grounded. It's important to recognize that navigating a marriage in the public eye is never straightforward. Even for couples like Pippa and James, who generally avoid the tabloid spotlight, speculation and rumor are almost impossible to avoid. Every solo appearance by Pippa at an event, every candid photo without James, seemed to fuel stories about potential problems. Yet there has been no credible evidence to suggest any real trouble within the marriage during these early years. In fact, their life together appeared to follow a relatively traditional pattern. They welcomed their first child, a son, in 2018, followed by 2 daughters. Throughout this time, Pippa continued to balance motherhood with her philanthropic interests, writing, and occasional public engagements. James, meanwhile, remained largely in the background, focusing on his business ventures and charitable work, particularly with the Michael Matthews Foundation, named in memory of his late brother. Their shared interests in charity work seemed to be a binding factor in their marriage. Both Pippa and James have demonstrated a genuine commitment to causes that matter to them, particularly those involving children, education, and the outdoors. This shared sense of purpose has helped to anchor their relationship amid the inevitable pressures that come with public life. While their marriage hasn't been without its challenges, and no relationship is, there has been a consistent pattern of mutual respect and shared goals. They have navigated the tricky waters of fame and privacy with a careful, considered approach, never fully retreating from public life, but also never allowing themselves to become tabloid regulars. As Pippa Middleton settled into married life with James Matthews, it quickly became apparent that their relationship would be shaped by differences in their personalities and approaches to public life. While both shared similar values in terms of family, charity, and personal achievement, The way they handled public attention created an interesting dynamic that would eventually stir speculation and, at times, concern from the outside world. James Matthews had long preferred a life away from media glare. His background in hedge fund management, a world where discretion is often valued above fame, meant he was naturally inclined to avoid publicity. His earlier years as a racing driver were relatively low profile compared to the celebrity athletes of today, and his later move into finance only reinforced his preference for privacy. In contrast, Pippa had spent several years acclimatizing to the demands of fame, albeit reluctantly at times. After the royal wedding in 2011, she had become used to cameras following her movements and the public's keen interest in her fashion choices, relationships, and social life. Initially, these differences seemed manageable. Pippa appeared content to have a husband who valued a quieter life, offering a contrast to the high-stakes media circus surrounding her sister, the Princess of Wales. However, over time, the gap between their approaches to public life started to raise eyebrows. While Pippa continued to make occasional public appearances, often attending charity events, fashion shows, and society weddings, James was rarely seen accompanying her. Observers began to notice the pattern. Pippa was often photographed attending functions alone, smiling gracefully for the cameras, while James remained largely out of sight. In a world where public appearances often fuel public perception, their increasingly separate public lives led to quiet speculation about the state of their marriage. Some suggested that the contrasting lifestyles might eventually cause deeper rifts between them, although no concrete evidence of marital troubles surfaced at the time. Adding to the strain was the immense pressure that Pippa faced, both from the outside world and from within. Growing up in a family that valued achievement and hard work, she was no stranger to high expectations. But living in the shadow of a sister who had married the heir to the British throne added an extra layer of complexity. No matter how successful she became in her own right, comparisons to Kate were inevitable. Sources close to Pippa have described her as fiercely determined, someone who strives for perfection not only in her personal life, but also in her public image. This pressure, combined with the demands of a growing family, likely took its toll. Pippa and James welcomed their first child in 2018, and 2 more children followed in the years after. Balancing motherhood with public expectations is a difficult task for anyone, but it is especially challenging under the relentless gaze of the British press. At times, Pippa's public appearances seemed less frequent, and when she did appear, some noted changes in her demeanor. While still polished and poised, there were moments where she appeared more reserved, perhaps even slightly withdrawn compared to her earlier, more vibrant public self. It wasn't only the public who noticed these changes. Within their extended family, small tensions reportedly began to surface. One source of friction was said to be between Pippa and Vogue Williams, who is married to James's younger brother, Spencer Matthews. Both women, by marrying into the Matthews family, found themselves connected not just by marriage, but also by social expectations. However, insiders suggested that Pippa and Vogue were very different in character, leading to occasional misunderstandings and tension. While both women have maintained a polite public front, there have been moments that hinted at deeper issues. Vogue, who is known for her candid and often outspoken personality, occasionally made comments on her podcast and television appearances that some interpreted as subtle digs at Pippa. Although these remarks were never overtly confrontational, the tension was clear to those familiar with the family dynamics. One incident that particularly caught the attention of royal watchers was Vogue's commentary on Meghan Markle during an episode of her podcast, where she criticized Meghan's public displays of motherhood. Some insiders believed that the comments, while outwardly directed at Meghan, were also a thinly veiled jab at Pippa, who had similarly embraced a more public approach to family life compared to the private James Matthews. Whether intentional or not, these moments fueled ongoing speculation about divisions within the Matthews family and added to the external pressures facing Pippa and James. Meanwhile, the public continued to read into every solo appearance by Pippa as a potential sign of trouble. In 2019, she attended the British Heart Foundation's Beating Hearts Ball without James, leading to renewed rumors about the state of their marriage. When questioned about James's absence, Pippa responded with a brief, slightly awkward joke that he was home watching the baby. While her response was delivered with her usual charm, it did little to quell the growing sense that all might not be entirely perfect behind closed doors. It's important to point out that in many marriages, especially those involving young children and demanding careers, it is perfectly normal for spouses to attend events separately. However, for public figures like Pippa, where every move is scrutinized, normal behavior often becomes the basis for wild speculation. Without consistent public displays of unity, it becomes easy for rumors to spiral. Fashion watchers also noted a subtle shift in Pippa's style during this period. Once known for her bright, youthful outfits that exuded energy and optimism, she began to favor more muted, understated choices. While fashion is always evolving and personal taste naturally matures, some observers linked the change to a broader emotional shift, suggesting that it reflected a more subdued phase in her life. Theories about Pippa's changing public image varied. Some believed that she was consciously stepping back from the spotlight to focus on her family and personal life. Others speculated that she was feeling the weight of her position, sandwiched between her royal connections and her desire for a relatively normal existence. Still, there were those who thought the shift indicated deeper unhappiness, particularly in her marriage. Despite the persistent rumors, there has been no formal confirmation of any marital strife between Pippa and James. Friends close to the couple have repeatedly stated that they are committed to each other and their family. They have also continued to engage in charitable activities, often together, which suggests that their bond remains strong even if their public appearances together are rare. One of the key challenges for Pippa and James seems to be navigating their very different relationships with fame. While Pippa has, by necessity, learned to manage public attention with a degree of comfort, James appears to remain uncomfortable with it. This fundamental difference in outlook could easily lead to moments of tension, but it doesn't necessarily signal a collapse of the relationship. Many successful couples manage differences in personality and lifestyle by respecting each other's boundaries, and it's possible that this is exactly what Pippa and James have done. Despite the constant rumors and speculation surrounding Pippa Middleton's marriage to James Matthews, there are signs that their relationship is more stable than the public might assume. While much attention has been given to their different approaches to fame and public life, what often goes unnoticed is the strong foundation of shared values and common goals that binds them together. Throughout the ups and downs of public perception, Pippa and James have continued to present a united front, focusing their energy on their family, charitable work, and building a meaningful life together away from the relentless scrutiny of the media. Long before marrying James, Pippa had demonstrated a genuine passion for charitable work. In 2013, she was named an ambassador for the Mary Hare School for Deaf Children in Berkshire, where she supported various initiatives aimed at helping children with hearing impairments. Pippa's work with the school was not a one-off gesture, but a consistent commitment that reflected her deep belief in using her public profile for positive change. It was clear from the beginning that charity work was not something she pursued for appearances, but because it genuinely mattered to her. This shared interest in philanthropy would become an important part of her relationship with James. In 2015, before they were married, James invited Pippa to join him and her brother James Middleton in a grueling 47-mile swim-run competition in Sweden to raise money for the Michael Matthews Foundation. The foundation was established in honor of James's younger brother Michael, who tragically died during an expedition on Mount Everest in 1999. Taking part in such a physically demanding challenge to raise funds for an important cause showcased Pippa's commitment and resilience, qualities that reportedly deepened James's admiration for her. Their mutual passion for charitable causes provided a firm basis for their marriage. While the media has often focused on their social differences, friends close to the couple describe a relationship rooted in mutual respect, shared goals, and a deep understanding of each other's values. Their charitable work, often undertaken without the fanfare that accompanies celebrity events, is a testament to their preference for substance over style. As Pippa and James's family grew, they continued to prioritize low-key living, focusing on raising their 3 young children out of the limelight. Unlike many public figures who regularly share personal milestones online or through media appearances, Pippa and James have opted for privacy, sharing only what is necessary and protecting their children's upbringing from the intense scrutiny that Pippa herself faced growing up in the public eye. At the same time, Pippa has remained active in her charitable efforts. She has supported organizations focusing on child welfare, health, and education, often choosing to lend her name quietly to causes rather than seeking the spotlight. In 2018, while pregnant with her first child, she worked alongside renowned sculptor Sophie Ryder to create limited-edition bronze sculptures, raising funds for facilities at the Mary Hare School. This project was particularly close to her heart, as it combined her love for art with her passion for helping children. James has similarly continued his commitment to charitable causes, particularly through his support of the Michael Matthews Foundation. Although he avoids media interviews and high-profile events, he has worked behind the scenes to ensure the foundation continues its vital work, funding education projects in remote and disadvantaged parts of the world. Recent rumors have even suggested that Pippa and James are planning to launch a new foundation together, one that focuses on children with special needs. If true, this initiative would represent the next chapter in their shared journey, blending their personal passions with their desire to give back. It would also send a clear message that their marriage is not defined by public appearances or tabloid speculation, but by a deeper, more enduring connection. Of course, the lack of constant public appearances continues to fuel gossip. In today's media environment, where visibility is often equated with success or happiness, a low-profile lifestyle can easily be misinterpreted as a sign of trouble. For Pippa and James, however, their decision to step back from the public gaze seems deliberate and thoughtful. Rather than playing into the endless cycle of speculation and media attention, they have chosen to build their life together on their own terms, valuing privacy, family, and meaningful work above fleeting public validation. Observers who have followed Pippa's journey from the early days of royal wedding fame to her current life as a mother and philanthropist often note her resilience. It would have been easy for Pippa to capitalize on her fame more aggressively, pursuing reality TV opportunities, brand endorsements, or a full-blown media career. Instead, she has taken a more measured path, choosing projects that align with her interests and values, and avoiding the pitfalls that so often accompany sudden fame. James's support has played a crucial role in allowing her to maintain this balance. By providing a stable, private base for their family, he has helped Pippa to focus on what matters most to her, without feeling the need to constantly perform for public approval. While their approaches to fame differ, it seems that their differences have, in many ways, strengthened their partnership rather than weakened it. It's also worth recognizing that modern marriages, especially those lived partly in the public eye, are complex and multifaceted. The idea that a successful marriage must be constantly on display is an outdated one. In many cases, couples find strength in their shared privacy, building a foundation that is resilient precisely because it is shielded from the pressures of public expectation. For Pippa and James, the future appears to be one of continued quiet achievement rather than dramatic headlines. Their focus on family life, combined with a growing emphasis on charitable work, suggests a path that prioritizes substance over show. Whether or not they ever become regular fixtures on the social scene seems irrelevant to their happiness or success as a couple. Speculation about their marriage will likely continue, as it does for many public figures. But those closest to Pippa and James consistently describe a relationship built on mutual support, shared values, and a strong commitment to their family and community. In a world increasingly driven by appearances, their choice to prioritize what truly matters offers a refreshing contrast.